Today we are going to be learning about parallelograms and the properties of parallelograms. So here I have one parallelogram, and one of the things that we need to know first is that parallelograms, a parallelogram comes from the word parallel because there are two pairs of parallel lines. This line is parallel to this line, and this line is parallel to this line. And that means, parallel means that if I extended these lines forever, they would never ever touch. That's what parallel means. And the parallelogram has two pairs of parallel lines. Also inside a parallelogram, the opposite sides are of equal length. So this side is equal to this side, as well as this side is equal to this side. So that's a lot of information about the sides of parallelograms. Now let's try and dive in and go inside the parallelogram. Inside a parallelogram, we have things that are pretty weird. We have an angle here, and we have a smaller angle here. And if you look at these angles, they look like they have some kind of relationship to each other. And the relationship that they have is that they add up to 180 degrees. They're called supplementary angles. And in a parallelogram, the adjacent, or the angles that are next to each other, are equal to 180 degrees. So this angle, let's say, was equal to 125. If it was, I could figure out the green angle by doing 180 minus 125 and getting 55. That means that this angle is equal to 55 degrees because together they add up to 180 degrees. Also inside a parallelogram, the opposite angles are equal. So opposite of this 125 is 125 over here. And opposite that 55 would be this 55 degrees over here. So the opposites in parallelograms are really unique and very interesting because they have such a wonderful relationship with each other. 125, 125, 55, 55. Now it's going to get a little bit trickier. We're going to dive into this parallelogram over here. So we're going to draw what's called a bisect an angle right over here. So this is the exact same parallelogram we were just working with. And I'm going to label all of the angles. So this is point A, point B, point C, and point D. And inside of these points are some angles that I'm going to label. And I'm going to label the angles in lowercase letters. So angle A, and lowercase b, lowercase c, lowercase d, lowercase e, and lowercase f. Now, we're going to bring up the same numbers we had from the parallelogram below because they are equal. So we know that this angle D equals 125 degrees. And if this angle D equals 125 degrees, so does angle A. And if angle A is 125, I know that these two angles are called supplementary angles. They add up to 180 degrees. So that means that this whole angle equals 55. And this whole angle equals 55. Here comes the tricky part. I'm going to tell you that this angle E equals 20 degrees. So because this angle E equals 20 degrees, I need to figure out first what angle F equals. Well, if this whole angle equals 55 and this part here equals 20, I have to subtract to figure out angle F. 55 minus 20 is 35 degrees. So angle F equals 35. Now, when I look at these angles, I have two angles left that I'm unsure of, angle B and angle C. And my eye tells me that when I look at 20 degrees here and I bring it over to C, these two, this angle and this angle, do not look exactly the same. And you are correct. We have to flip it. So angle E is actually equal to angle B on the inside. And angle F is actually equal to angle C on the inside. And the reason for that is because if you use this is called the transversal. This line here is called the transversal. If you use that transversal, you couldn't just fold it in half and have point C land on point A. If you folded it over, point C would land here. So they're not equal. What you'd have to do is you'd have to turn it. Point C actually would go all the way around over here. And so when you bring your angle around, angle E is actually equal to angle B. So that means angle B equals 20 degrees and angle C equals 35 degrees. That's a lot. We're going to try one more together and see how we do. Let me go back one. Take this one to a new page. Sorry about that. So this time, we'll make ours a little bit, we'll make it like this. And I'm going to tell you that this angle here equals 42 degrees. So right away, you can start figuring out some of the other angles. Number one, we know that the opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal, 42 degrees. We also know that the adjacent angles, or the angles next to each other, are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees. So I can do 180 minus 42. And I get 138 degrees. Now here comes the tricky part. I'm going to draw my transversal. And I'm going to tell you that this angle over here is equal to 18 degrees. Because this one equals 18 degrees, this angle here, don't get fooled. Remember, we have to go across and flip it on the other side. This angle equals 18 degrees. So that means we have just a little bit more to figure out. I need to figure out this angle here. And I need to figure out this angle here. Well, I know that the total of that angle is 42 degrees. So I need to take 42 and subtract what I now have, which is 18. So 42 minus 18, I need to borrow. And I wind up with 24 degrees. So that means that this angle over here was 24, this little tiny angle, and this angle over here was 24 degrees. Good luck with your homework. Hope it goes well. See you tomorrow.